What is up, Flick fans, and welcome back. As you guys know, we do tier lists on this channel, and I was looking for something to do this weekend in particular, and realized that we're not getting any more superhero films for the rest of the year. And you know what that means? That means we're going to take all of the superhero movies that I've seen, and I'm going to place them on their proper tiers. When I say proper tiers, I mean the tiers that I want to put them on, because it's all personal opinion. But the beauty of a video like this is not only for me to share you guys my thoughts. I need you all in the comments section, of course, letting me know what is your favorite superhero movie of the year. Not comic book movie. That would be a different list with different films. This is focusing on movies with superheroes. So you may see movies on here that do not necessarily fit in the comic book genre, but hey, there's probably a superhero in there somewhere. These are the movies I'm talking about. This is the list. And like I said, this is all opinion-based, just talking about my particular favorite. I feel like I always have to preface that because it's YouTube. You guys may also see some movies on here that weren't necessarily theatrical releases. I did see some of the DC animated movies that dropped this year, so I'm going to be talking about those. And actually, the first one on this list is Justice League versus the Fatal Five. Now, it's a difficult thing when you're comparing a straight-to-VOD film with a theatrical release. It all comes down to what the movie was trying to do. With a film like Justice League versus the Fatal Five, I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but all I will tell you is that the original voice cast returns from Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. That's right, the TV show from the early 2000s, and this was an interesting story. I liked the new characters. It was really, really fun, but it's that nostalgia factor. It's that kick in the gut of, hey, we're going to bring back your childhood, and you're going to like it. And guess what? I liked it for what the film was trying to do. It did kind of feel like another episode, but it worked. It did everything it intended on doing, and for that, I'm going to start out with a pretty good movie that I believe belongs on the good tier. Now, once again, comparing it to a live-action film is very difficult to do, but it all comes down to what the film was trying to do. The next movie we're talking about is Brightburn. Brightburn was a film that I was extremely excited for because it looked like it was going to be this dark take on what could have happened if Superman went bad, if he had a bit of a different backstory. And that's kind of what we got. You know, I didn't get as many thrills, chills, the level of horror that I had hoped from this film. I think James Gunn producing it fed a lot of people, I'm not going to say false hope, but the hope of the fact that maybe this film could have been better. He did not direct it. He produced it. I liked what it did for the most part. I enjoyed what it set up for the future in this universe. The actual movie did not execute as well as I would have wanted it to. I found the pacing lacking in parts, and it's a very predictable third act. But for what it was trying to do, I'm still going to say it was an okay movie. I think Brightburn is worth watching if you haven't seen it. If you enjoy this premise, it really is exactly what you get, and I'm not going to blame anyone for liking it even more than I did. Okay, here we go. So, for a long time this year, Hellboy was one of my worst movies of the year. Still down there, but it's no longer in that top spot. If you guys don't know, I didn't like this movie at all. I'm going to put in the awful tier. It has its fans. I saw some people on Letterboxd in particular that said, hey, it's fun, it's kooky, it's wacky, it knows what it is, and I can't deny that it's wacky. I can't deny that it's kooky. It's just everything that it was going for is so tired in 2019. It felt like a bad comic book movie from the early 2000s. You take that, you place it 14, 15 years later, and it's even worse than it would have been if it would have dropped that many years ago. Hellboy it didn't work, and I love David Harbour. I actually thought he was great in the movie. He was easily the best part. He took it home for me, but the story was utterly forgettable. I never want to watch this movie again. I just think it botched what it was going for, and it took comic book movies back a step. And I hate saying that. It's been a wonderful year for comic book films. You're going to see superhero films. That's what we're talking about. In general, it's been a great year. But this movie, I didn't like it. Apologies to anyone that did. Next up is Batman Hush. Now, Batman Hush comes out, and I am familiar with the original storyline, but I don't have this huge attachment to it that others do. There is a twist within this movie that I think a lot of people took issue with, and it caused them not to like the film in general, and it also it focuses on Batman's relationships a bit too much. I will agree with that. So I watched it. I enjoyed it, thought about it a bit more. I don't enjoy it as much now. I'm still going to say it's okay, and here's why. I do think it showcases a different side of Batman, which I like. You get to dive more into his emotions, which is wonderful, and he is facing a challenge that actually manages to kind of pick at his brain, which is great. I did not mind the twist at the end. I think that's the difference. Some people are getting so caught up in the twist, and trust me, I get it. I'm a comic book fan. I understand. If they go away from source material that I love, it's going to make me upset. Plenty of fans got upset, and I completely understand. For me, I still think it was an okay movie. Had a good time with it, like the voice cast, but I understand why it doesn't work for a lot of people. Next up, oh boy, talking Captain Marvel. And this is one of the most divisive superhero movies, not just of the year, of the last couple of years. So many people want to tell me, Austin, Captain Marvel is the worst. So many people want to tell me, Austin, Captain Marvel is the best. And I'm just sitting here like, it's okay. So I'm going to put it on the okay tier. Here's why. Captain Marvel does fall into the generic MCU formula, and for me, that is why it is on the low tier of the MCU movies, not the low tier of this tier list. Some would say I'm a Marvel Cinematic Universe shill, a fanboy, even though I love DC equally. I don't get that. But I liked Captain Marvel when I first saw it. So many elements to love. My biggest issue is the lead. My biggest issue is Brie Larson, and this has nothing to do with the behind-the-scenes stuff. It's just the fact that she was a bit dull as the character, and she did not deliver what I know she can deliver in an Oscar-worthy performance. I don't even need an Oscar-worthy performance for Captain Marvel. I just need a character, I need an actress for that character that knows what she is supposed to be, and I don't think she nailed that in Captain Marvel. I am awaiting to see what she does in the next film. I liked her more in Endgame, more than her own movie. Still didn't love her. What I loved about this movie was the cat, obviously. Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. I think this is the best he's ever done. He was so good. Some explanations for certain elements of that character in particular and other characters in the MCU. I was like, okay. And then it's a very generic third act with a generic villain, a predictable twist, certain elements that didn't work, certain elements that really work. I love seeing Captain Marvel use her powers, and it's just kind of a mixed bag of a movie. Definitely more veering in the positive direction for me because I did have a bit of fun with it, but I haven't went back to revisit it, if that's saying anything, and I've watched the movie that we're about to talk about many, many times. So let's get right into it. Avengers Endgame. You guys know how I feel about this movie. Let's bring back the MCU shill fanboy. I love everything about this because I grew up with Chris Tuckman. I grew up with this franchise. I did. I grew up with it. I enjoyed it for what it was. Most of the movies I love, some of the movies I like. There are a few in there that are completely like, it didn't work. It's boring. It's not the best. But I am a massive comic book guy. Marvel and DC, and to nail a universe like this entire franchise did, and then to cap it off with a movie like this, how am I not going to put this in the awesome tier? I just think this is an awesome movie. In terms of technical achievement, I'm not going to sit here and say it's an Oscar-caliber movie. It has the most engaging cinematography I've ever seen, and the script is just indulgent. No, absolutely not. But to nail this like it nailed it, to bring together so many elements, to give us a 3-act structure, a 3-hour film that managed to tie in so many different things that Marvel fans love and just do it in a way that blew me away. And I love all of the epic moments and the character choices, and I just, I was so happy. And I know clouding your judgment with nostalgia and your feeling walking out of the theater, it's a tough thing to not do when you're a critic, but guess what? With this movie, I just had such a great time. I tear up every time I watch it. That means something. You can say these films are emotionless. You can say they're lifeless. That means something, and not everyone's going to feel that way. It's fine if you're not putting Avengers Endgame on the awesome tier. I am. I love the movie. And let's talk about Glass. Let's talk about Glass, one of my more anticipated films of the year. M. Night Shyamalan capping off another trilogy that, frankly, I think deserved a better film. I've only seen Glass once, but when I saw it and I reviewed it, I got a bit of backlash on my review because a lot of people loved this movie. And I get it. It is very artistic. It's stylistic in a way, and honestly, the first half of the movie really worked for me. Like, I was digging it. I was enjoying it. I love the direction they were going. And then the thing happens in the third act, and it goes where it goes, and it is the most anticlimactic thing. And the decision-making here is what really, really just kind of upset me. As a massive fan of Unbreakable, as a massive fan of Split, and then you get a movie like this, making character decisions that, frankly, I wouldn't have made. I do think it's well shot. I think it's well made. I think the first 2 acts are really good. Unfortunately, the third act just completely falls apart, and that is why I am still going to put it on the okay tier. Listen, I gave it a positive score. I didn't sit here and say Glass is the worst movie I've seen in years. No, I liked it, but I wanted to love it. That's the disappointment factor that you feel sometimes going in and out of movies. If you loved it, that's absolutely okay. The next one I want to talk about is Reign of the Supermen, the follow-up to The Death of Superman that came out last year, and I believe they just released the kind of combo movie where it combines them both into one thing. Listen, I really enjoyed this. I don't know if it's just my affinity for this DC world, and I'm not the biggest fan of where this current Superman-Batman universe is going. We have Justice League versus the Fatal Five, which takes us back to the universe that we know from the early 2000s, and then we have this new one with Justice League War and a few of those movies in that vein, and I liked some of them, and then some of them I'm just like, okay. But the death and the reign of Superman, this is a nice 1-2 punch, man. It really is. If you're a fan of the story from the comics, it definitely changes things up, but not in a way that I think is going to frustrate people, and I just I had a lot of fun watching this. I love the voice cast. I love Superman in this story, and I love the Supermen, the exploration. Lex Luthor is very villainous in these movies as well, and I just it's another DC animated movie I'm putting on the good tier. We have all of these live-action movies that came out and made a ton of money at the box office, and then we have the 2 that barely anyone's talking about, and you guys may have not even seen. But hey, I encourage you, if you like DC, if you're a fan of this universe, definitely go check those out. Hey, another DC film, Shazam. Now, when I first saw Shazam, I walked out, I was elated. I had such a good time with it. I thought about it a bit more. I became more nitpicky on the plot and the villain and certain elements of the second act and the build-up to the third act, and the third act was a bit too cornball. Still really funny, and I love Zachary Levi. Zachary Levi is just an integral part to the DC universe at this point, and I'm so happy they cast him. You have no idea. I am so happy we have him as Shazam, and maybe one day he'll meet up with The Rock. I'm going to put Shazam on the good tier, and here's why. Those issues did creep back and haunt me a bit. Now, I haven't seen the movie in quite a while. I do need to go back and pay it a revisit, but this is a really good entry in the DC universe. Don't let me say, oh, it was great and now it's good. Put the movie down. I don't want to do that. It's really, really, really good. It is one of those that I think about and I'm like, it's funny. It brings a different flavor to this current DCEU. I don't even know what they're doing with the DCEU at this point, but I do know that Shazam was a really nice addition, and I want this franchise to keep going, and I just think Zachary Levi has completely nailed the character. It's a nice story of friendship as well, and one that I definitely recommend to you guys. Let's talk about Spider-Man Far From Home. Spider-Man Far From Home is a film that I had such a love-hate relationship, mostly because they took Spider-Man out of the MCU, then they put him back in the MCU, so I've watched it a few times. I watched it with the mindset of him not being in the MCU, and then I watched it with the mindset of him being in the MCU, and it was like, oh, now I'm sad. Now I'm really happy. The first 15-20 minutes of this film does not nail the humor that I got from Spider-Man Homecoming. I was disappointed until it turns into what I love about this movie. It turns into the Spider-Man Far From Home that I think about. I get excited. I get giddy because of what this does with Tom Holland's character. Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. Can we give this man a hand for coming in and just knocking this villain out of the park? He was so good. And this is not me being an MCU fanboy, but this version of Spider-Man is one that just knocks it out of the park for me, man. I love everything they're doing with him. It is a different version. It is a version that not everyone is going to love, for sure, and I get that. I still go back to my Tobey Maguire movies, and I just sit there and I melt when I watch Spider-Man 2 because I love Spider-Man 2. I don't think Spider-Man Far From Home is as good. That's a controversial statement. I'm doing this to myself. But Spider-Man Far From Home is still great. I really loved this movie, man. It is up there with my favorite MCU films. I believe it's in the top 10, if not right outside, but it's definitely up there on that level of greatness, and it's still in my top 20 of the year. Far From Home was one that I'm going to keep watching over and over. Tom Holland just nails this character. Some more characters that are nailed by the actors. That sounded weird. Professor X, Magneto, Jean Grey, Cyclops, Beast, Nightcrawler. I like Nightcrawler, but that face that I was making was towards this movie. Listen, X-Men Dark Phoenix was exactly what I expected it to be, and I hate to say it like that. I saw the trailer. I'm like, no. And then I saw the next trailer. I'm like, not really. And maybe it's because I knew that this franchise was going to inevitably get rebooted. I knew that 2 years ago. I think we all kind of knew that. As soon as the Fox rumors started to elate, it's like, oh, okay, cool. But then they just... They botched the movie anyway. I wasn't a fan of this direction. I wasn't a fan of what they did with the characters. It was kind of a boring superhero movie. I was not engaged whatsoever. I think the villain, Jessica Chastain, whom I love, that is one of the worst storylines I've ever seen in a comic book movie. I kid you not. That villain storyline was useless. And I do think without that, this movie would have been significantly better, because the original concept that I saw was that they were going to put the third act in space, but they didn't want to do it because it reminded them too much of Captain Marvel. And it's like, come on, guys. Do what's best for the story. I don't care if this is the last movie with these actors, because it is, but I don't care. Do what's best for the story. I do like how it kind of separates itself from the other X-Men movies. It is different. And there were elements of, say, the train scene. I like that. I like the showcase of the X-Men using their powers. Let's transfer that over into the MCU. So many elements that could have worked. But at the end of the day, I am teetering on the bad and the meh tier, mostly because, like I said, it is a very different X-Men movie, but I am going to put it on the bad tier, mostly because it was just a huge disappointment, especially when you compare it to something like Days of Future Past, which is... a phenomenal movie, in my opinion. I love that movie so much. But then you look at how the franchise ended, and for me, it ended on a sad note. It really did. Oh, what's that? Who's that? It's the Joker. Joker, not the Joker. Listen, Joaquin Phoenix puts in an Oscar-worthy performance, but how does the movie measure up? Does the movie, does it showcase too much violence? Does it do things that I think a lot of people in 2019 are going to get offended by? Is it a pretentious, overly stuffed, overblown film? No. I'm putting Joker on the awesome tier. I think Joker's an awesome movie. I really do. I love it the more that I think about it. It is firmly in my top 10 of the year, that and Avengers Endgame, and it's crazy. Let's look at the comparison real quick. Avengers Endgame is an epic comic book film, an amalgamation of 20-something other movies, bringing together all of these heroes' characters, a giant CGI fest with explosions and comic book glory and madness and colors and crazy shots and cinematography and everything you want in a blockbuster movie. Joker is the opposite. Joker is a character study. Joker is a wonderfully directed movie with gorgeous cinematography, a haunting score that sticks with you, a film that gets better the more you think about it. I need to see the movie again. I need to see how it resonates with myself, to see how the people around me, the people with me, watch it, how they soak it in for the first time. It's that kind of movie, man. I've not stopped thinking about it. It's been 2 weeks. It is still sticking with me after one watch. That is the power of Joker, and that's the power of a gorgeous and incredible comic book movie that shifts the genre, I think, in a great direction. I think this is great news for Batman, Matt Reeves' Batman. Regardless of if they intersect or not, who knows, maybe there's a chance. I do think that film is going to go in a more artistic direction now. I think this is great for R-rated comic book movies. I think they're going to take that concept and they are going to push the boundaries, push the limits. I also think this is great for the character of the Joker. And I know we've had so many incarnations, but this movie is doing so well at the box office and fans are loving it so much, I would not be surprised if Joaquin comes back. I would have never said that a couple of weeks ago, but hearing his comments, seeing the box office results, Todd Phillips' eyes glowing up with the money symbols, A lot of things moving in the right direction, but we don't need to talk about a sequel right now. Let's just talk about this film. A wonderful standalone DC movie. Look at this, guys. Awesome tier. You have a great epic Marvel movie. You have a wonderful Oscar-worthy DC film. That doesn't make everyone want to come together in harmony. I don't know what will. World peace? No. Marvel and DC on the same tier. On the awesome tier. And if you look at the great and the good tier, you have one Marvel on great, but then you got 3 DC on good. Like, it's balancing out very, very well. Let's not pay attention to Hellboy. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. This was a lot of fun. Once again, it's all my opinion, but I'm in this because I want to see the comparisons. I need your tier lists. I need your rankings down below. I'm not going to rank them just yet, because I am saving that for the end of the year, and I want you guys to see where each movie goes, because I'm planning this giant countdown, and I cannot wait for that. You guys are truly the best. Thank you so much for supporting this channel, for watching all of my reviews this weekend. A lot of stuff dropped on Netflix. My El Camino review, Gemini Man, so many things on this channel right now. Thank you for leaving your thoughts, hitting that thumbs up button if you enjoy these tier lists. If you hit the thumbs up button, I will definitely do more, and your comments as well. I'll see you guys soon.